Hello and welcome one and all to Immigration and Jobs Talk Show. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Nipasa Pradhan and we are going to have a fun time today. We're going to have a webinar with a very important guest. But before I introduce you to the guest of the day and also the topic for the day for discussion, I wanted to read out this very important disclaimer, and that is, by watching our videos, you agree and understand that the information provided by our experts and attorneys, including comments and replies from users, is not legal advice. Use of information is at your own risk. Once again, welcome, dearest friends, to Immigration and Jobs Talk Show. And welcome to this session we are going to have with none other than our guest for today, attorney Chand Parvathaneni from Dallas, Texas. It's really great to have you back once again, Chand. Welcome back to Immigration and Jobs Talk Show.
Hello, Nipasa, and thank you for the show today. And hope to discuss more about this topic today.
Absolutely, me too. And thank you so much, friends. Today's topic of discussion is what are the hidden aspects of life for Indians in America? And we are going to talk at length today about this and many questions that revolve around this topic. And I hope you too, wherever you've joined us from, we are streaming live on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter. Thank you so much once again, friends, for joining us. And if you have any questions related to immigration, jobs, and especially this topic, if you are an Indian, maybe living in America, facing anything you want to share, even, you can always drop them in the comments. We'll be very happy to read them here in our show today. And Chand, I hope you are excited. Would you like to tell us what can folks expect from us in today's episode?
Sure. So, in general, most of the immigrants that come to US, they understand that they're coming to a foreign country, and majority of them follow the rules by the book. And it's rare to see people actually getting into trouble with the law because they understand that even a small criminal issue will jeopardize their career and pretty much stop their career in US. So overall, what we see is most of the people want to follow by the rules. They follow all the rules, all the laws, and stay compliant. However, lately, I think what unfortunately, we are seeing some negative news where people are getting into trouble because they're not following the rules. People are getting exploited, and we heard news about human trafficking recently in US.
Right.
So I think today's show, I think it's a good time for all of us to kind of look at what's happening and educate ourselves with the rules, and not only the rules but also recourses. If somebody exploits somebody, what kind of recourses does somebody have? What kind of exploitation potentially is happening? Not on a large scale, but at least even that minority that do it, they make the
Mhm.
entire industry look bad. So I think today's show is more about, especially specific to the employment practices, how immigrants who are in US could be exploited during their employment, what kind of things are happening in US where things might not be by the book, following the rules, following the regulations, and ensure that everybody understands the rules, knows what to do if they have been exploited, and for everybody to ensure that they're following the rules. Because if there is some kind of a criminal offense, especially
Mhm.
regarding trafficking, and if it is proved, the repercussions are severe. And I think that is the goal. The goal is what exactly uh, is trafficking, and not only trafficking, what kind of other issues happen, especially with the body shopping companies and so on. And that being said, I think let's get started.
I think so also. I think without further ado, let's get into this topic. And I have some questions for you, Chan. So let's move on to this first one. And if you could explain, why trafficking charges might not apply in cases where trainees stay at premises willingly, and what alternative charges, such as document forgery under 18 USC 471, you might be considered, especially when fake green cards are involved. What would you like to comment on this one?
Sure. And I think we're going to talk about a little bit about trafficking. And the reason we want to
Yes.
talk about trafficking is because we are slowly seeing people getting exploited. Um, and in general, whenever we talk about trafficking, two things come to mind. One is trafficking for labor, and one is
Yes.
trafficking for commercial sex. And in our case, at least in what's happening in this IT industry, H1B industry, we're talking about trafficking for labor. So that is what I think we're focusing on, because that is the recent issue
Yes.
that we have seen, human trafficking, but as it relates to labor. So, in general, whenever there is force, fraud, or coercion, and this force, fraud, or coercion is used to exploit somebody, either for
Mhm.
labor or commercial sex, we call it trafficking. And in this case, what we have recently seen is they are saying that force, fraud, or coercion has been used to procure labor. So it is labor exploitation. That is what I think we're talking about. So, in
Right.
general,
Yeah.
uh, the charges get proven if the prosecutors are able to prove that either there is force, fraud, or coercion. When that is there, it
Mhm.
is easy to prove labor trafficking. And in this case, again, we don't know what has happened. The police. So I think to educate all the viewers, what has happened recently is in Texas, there was a case where people arrested some consultancy companies, and the consultancy companies were operating a guest house, and the guest house housed some trainees. And apparently, the police, they found these people, the employees, the trainee employees, they were living in pretty bad conditions. And we don't have the exact information because the police have not released the entire evidence, but they've released the charges. And the charges basically say that these employees have been um, forced and defrauded, and through force and fraud, they have been made to perform services, labor services, and they have been exploited. So that is pretty much what they have said. And currently, the case is ongoing, and the entire evidence has not been released. And we have to wait and watch and see what kind of evidence the prosecutors have, because the prosecutors are building their case, and the defense, which is the people who are accused of this crime, they're building up their case. But again, if we assume that there is no force, fraud, or coercion, what that means is these trainees, they were willingly ready to work in, live in that home and work under those conditions. If that is the case, probably trafficking charges might not stand. But at this point of time, because it's an ongoing case, ongoing investigation, and evidence is being collected, evidence is being documented, we don't know. But again, consent and willingness is a very important aspect. So if the trainees did willingly stay at the premises without any form of coercion, fraud, or force, then I would say that the situation does not meet the legal definition of trafficking. So, but again, if they prove that there is force or fraud, clearly there is exploitation, the prosecutors will be able to prove their charges. The trafficking laws typically focus on exploitation. So, if they're not being exploited for labor, trafficking charges might not be applicable if they have willingly uh, worked without any kind of a force. We don't know yet. But again, assuming everything has been done by the book and the employees were willing, those charges might not hold. But again, alternative charges. We're talking about document forgery. So the 18 United States Code that you just quoted, the statutes, there are laws about forgery. And we're talking about the documents of United States government. So what we are hearing is that the green cards, the H-1B approvals, fraudulent documents were actually produced. So people were actually producing fraudulent documents, fake green cards, and they were using these green cards to apply for positions and to prove that they had some qualified employees who are authorized to work. And document forgery under 18 United States Code. There are specific statutes regarding use of fake documents, either creating fake documents or using fake documents. Now, on the other hand, these charges I think are easy to prove, because if those documents were found in those premises, if people used fake documents, if people created these fake green cards, fake approval copies, 18 USC, 18 United States Code has very clear laws on what could be done. This statute specifically targets those individuals who either create, alter, or possess counterfeit documents like green cards that are issued by the US government. And not only that, they're also probably committing immigration crimes. So the fake documents, on the other hand, I think also has repercussions. So there is human trafficking on one side, which may be proved or might not be proved, depending on what kind of force was used, what kind of a coercion was used. And on the other side, we have this issue about the fake documents. So, possession of fake green cards, production or distribution, it's a huge fraud. It is against United States code. So people have to be cautious because we do hear these kind of things keep happening time to time. I recently had an RFE, and it was a shocking RFE. So this employee gave a document during his transfer for his previous company. USCIS came back, and in the RFE they mentioned this is a fake document. We did not even issue this document. So sometimes people they just don't know what's happening. Any fake document, it's against USC, United States code. It's a criminal offense. So people, anybody who's in possession of a fake green card, fake United States document, United States USCIS approvals, engaging in production, distribution, these are huge crimes that will have serious repercussions. And that is what something I think everybody has to understand, because time to time we hear about cases where somebody comes to us and say the employer is forcing them to use fake documents to apply for jobs. It's a huge crime. Do not do it. No, let nobody force you or coerce you. There are serious repercussions for either using fake documents or being in possession of fake documents or creating those documents. And the penalties for document forgery are covered in 18 United States Code. They can result in significant fines, significant imprisonment. Okay, so people can be jailed if they have these kind of forged documents. So be very very cautious. It's a time where so any immigrant who's on H-1B or any other status, if you have an employer who's asking you to use fake documents, who is giving you fake documents and asking you to produce to get interview calls with clients or somebody, be very cautious. You're committing a crime. Do not participate in any of such things. And even employers, sometimes employers come to us and say that employees are forcing them to kind of produce these documents so they can better their chances of getting good interview calls. So anybody, whether it's an employer or an employee, be very very cautious. Don't ever get into these kinds of mess. And again, my experience is it's it's a minority. The majority follow by the rules, but there is that minority who want to produce these fake documents to either get client calls or get fast projects. But you're committing a crime against the United States government. Okay, so be very careful. So to summarize, wherever if the trainees are actually willingly staying at that location, not getting exploited, more than likely the trafficking charges might not hold. But fake green cards, fraudulent documents, if they are involved, charges could be brought under 18 USC. And I think overall, I think it's a good time where everybody discuss with their friends about this topic. And if anybody knows about people producing fake documents, there are ways to report to the higher authorities. As a whole, I think this has to stop, because what's happening now is even people with genuine experience, genuine qualifications, they are going behind because people with fake resumes, fake documents, they are getting ahead of the curve because they're using these methods to find projects and violate the laws. So overall, I think a good time for everybody to take a step back and ensure that this is not happening in whatever fashion at all. Document forgery, especially forging approval copies, forging green cards, is a crime. Okay, and we have seen this being caught a number of times. Uh, it's very common at the port of entry. They take the phones. They look at the documents. I've seen this happen a number of times where the government caught these people carrying fake documents, fake approvals, and they have a right to prosecute and imprison people, and also have huge penalties.
So, friends, I think it's always good to stay away from any sort of crime and stay safe. That's the only way you can, have a good time. I mean, in the country, that's for sure. And thank you so much, Chand, for responding to that in explaining that in very details. I hope that it was pretty clear to all you folks out there. And I think this gives me a chance to just greet all you friends. Thank you so much for your questions and comments. Keep commenting wherever you're watching us from. Hannah, hi, thank you so much. Alex, Akbar, Neha, Hemant, thank you for your questions. We will take them up. You just stay with us for now. So, Chand, are you ready for another question now? So, I
Sure.
wanted to talk about the middlemen commissions. How do middlemen commissions factor into human trafficking cases since we're talking about it? And particularly in situations where individuals are navigated towards visas and jobs, they may not typically qualify for. So we spoke about it some time back, but if you could explain a little further, especially about these middlemen
Sure.
commissions, it'll be
So,
great.
so when we talk about middlemen, I see middlemen come in two different fashions in this whole employment-based immigration, whether it is OPT employment or whether it is H-1B employment. So we see, like when it's students who are on OPT, sometimes we see middlemen where they play a part in getting involved to find an employer. So what they do is they go to the students, they say they have a good reference, and they refer some employer. And for referring the students to the employer, what happens is these middlemen, they're not related to the company. They're not a part of the company. They don't own the company. But what they do is they take the students and refer them to these companies, and sometimes they get a commission. And sometimes during H-1B also, I see this happen. The company who's filing, sometimes they get referrals from these middlemen, and this middlemen sometimes get commissions. And sometimes there are no middlemen, but the companies who are actually filing the H-1Bs or giving the OPT employment, they sometimes could act as middlemen because they outsource these employees to the end client. So the end client is the one who's getting the services, and end client is paying the vendor. The vendor is paying this company, and this company pays the employee. So middlemen being involved does not mean something illegal is happening. Middlemen could be illegal, but what could happen is middlemen sometimes play a significant role in human trafficking cases if sometimes these individuals are directed towards these jobs that they typically do not qualify. And the reason I say they typically do not qualify is because sometimes what I see is the employees apply for a job with a client, they're not qualified. So what they do is they fake the resume, they send fake resumes. And the employer and the employee, and maybe the middleman, they work together in concert. They create this fake resume, send it to the end client, and try to get jobs. So what is happening is through deceptive practices, the employees are getting exploited, and employees are getting defrauded because through fraud they're getting false hopes. And sometimes these middlemen say that this is how it needs to be done. This is how you need to fake your resume. But what is happening is they're creating this environment where they're through some fraud, they're giving false hopes to the employees and exploiting the employees. And whenever there is fraud and exploitation, we talk about human trafficking. So as a whole, through their false promises, this middlemen, so because these middlemen are luring individuals with promises of legitimate employment and better living conditions, but what really is happening is they're making them create these fake resumes, creating fraudulent job offers. When there is no job, they're creating fraudulent job offers, or creating jobs that they do not qualify because they don't have enough experience, but they make it look like they have enough experience. So whenever there is this recruitment by this middleman through deception, I think the element of human trafficking always comes into the picture, and sometimes very high fees and commission. So middlemen, I mean, again, legally, if you have a valid contract, you can charge commission. But how they are charging, what kind of promises they are creating, are they coercing somebody? So sometimes we might even see financial exploitation by these middlemen. So overall, sometimes it could impact the human trafficking based on how these middlemen are involved. And sometimes there is fraud. When we talk about fraud, it's fake documents because these middlemen are using fake documents, falsified information, falsified resumes to either secure employment, maybe either during the OPT status or even with the H-1B. Because with the H-1B, they make all kinds of fake documents, make it look like they have a job. So anytime the fake documents are involved, any misrepresentation to the US government is involved, run away. Okay, fake documents, misrepresentation to USCIS. When I talk about misrepresentation to USCIS, there are a lot of things. Maybe using fake experience letters, maybe using fake employment details. So all these things will create issues. And whenever there is middlemen involved, where they're actually actively encouraging this trafficking, fraud, related crimes could come into the picture. Okay, and so what it basically means is whenever middlemen are involved, just be cautious. Okay, so if they're asking you to do
Mhm.
everything that is legal, I'm not that worried. But if they're asking you to create some fake documents, fake resumes, creating jobs that don't exist, they're asking you to misrepresent things, be careful, walk away. Need to talk to some other people who know the laws. Just feel free to do so. The reason is, if you get into the trap and tomorrow you get involved. I personally, I saw cases where 3 4 years down the line, somebody went out of the country, they came back into the country. At the port of entry, the CBP officer stopped them, took their phone or took their laptop. They opened up. They found fake resumes. They found fake documents. They got deported back. And this is not what we're just hearing. I've practically seen people send me their transcripts with this information, because whenever somebody
Mhm.
gets deported back, they get a transcript on what has happened. So we deal with these cases where people get sent back because they were stupid enough to cooperate with their employers and fake their resumes, use fake documents to get quick employment. So just be cautious. Sometimes if it takes time, it takes time. The reason I say that is because a lot of the MS people, they're highly qualified. They have a master's degree from US. Getting a master's from US is not easy. They are highly qualified. That being said, when they're
Mhm.
fresh out of college, sometimes it is challenging for them to find a job right away. Yes, it is challenging. It will take some time, but it does not mean that you listen to people who ask you to fake up your resume, use fake documents. Don't fall for that. If it takes time, it takes time. That is why USCIS is giving people enough time. The first 1 year on OPT, you can just get trained. You don't even have to have a job where you get paid. The first 1 year, it's for training. So use that opportunity to get trained. And there is enough time. So if you take time to find a job, that's fine. But just don't get into a situation where you're misrepresenting things with the US government.
Okay, okay. Well, Chand, thank you so much for taking that up as well. And I hope, friends, you stay away from all these fraudulent activities and make sure that you do your proper research and you make sure that you are on the right path. I mean, no fake experience letters, no fake recommendation letters, but try and go, I mean, true in all parts with all documents. So to stay safe, especially. All right. Thank you so much, Chand. Let's move on to the next question. And this is about body shopping, since we were talking just now about it. If you can shed light on the role of body shopping, agencies in India as well. And they bring individuals to the USA on H-1B visas, keeping them on their payroll without offering jobs, and then contract them out to other companies for a commission. So, how does this practice intersect with human trafficking laws?
So when we talk about body shopping in the H&B context, so what we typically mean is the companies are bringing over people and they employ them, but what they do is they outsource them to some other companies. So probably a consulting company is bringing somebody to work, say for Apple. So the employee will go and work in Apple, but he's going to get paid by this body shopping company. So body shopping in general, what we hear about is there is a person, but that person is going to be outsourced to work at some other end client location. And sometimes when you talk about this practice, there is always a concern for exploitative practices, and there is a reason for that. So the way this process works is the agencies, the IT consulting companies. The IT consulting companies, what they do is they recruit skilled workers abroad. And since when you talk about H1B, majority of the H1B people are from India. So most of the H1B people, they are recruited in India. And these employees, when they are recruited in India, they are promised a job, a lucrative job. And that is what in reality happens, because the H1B salaries are very high salaries. And if people are skilled, there is nothing wrong in getting recruited because they're qualified and being promised a lucrative job. That part is not the problem. The next part is the H1B sponsorship. So they file for the H1B visa, and this H1B visa is intended for specialized occupation. And as long as they sponsor the H1B visa, there is no issue. They sponsor, they come here, and say the company outsources them to Apple. That's okay, as long as it's a part of their file, their petition with USCIS. The LCA is appropriate. There is nothing wrong until that part. However, what happens in some cases is the employment practices. No payroll, no payroll. So what happens is these guys come from India and they arrive in India. What this company should do is they filed a H1B right from day one. These companies have to pay the employees the salary. They cannot be put on the bench. Bench is illegal. The problem, what happens is some companies, I would not say all, this few companies, what they do is they put them on the bench. Any kind of a bench on H1B is illegal. People have to be paid, whether there is a project or no project. By law, the employees on H1B have to be paid, and if there is a material change, they have the burden of going back to USCIS and letting USCIS know if there is any material change from their filing. But what happens is these guys come, they sit on the bench, they don't get paid, and whenever they get a job, the company will send them, and at that point of time, the companies will pay the salary because they take a commission and they pay. Now, that is the part where things could be illegal. To comply with the H1B, employers have to follow the terms of H1B and LCA very strictly. They have to pay as required. The employee has to stay in the location where the work site is. Not paying as required, not complying, that is what is the issue. Because if employers are just bringing people and then putting them on the bench, paying them only when there is a project, that is illegal. That is exploitation. So that is where there is a problem. So if the company, for example, is bringing somebody over when their project is over, if they're getting paid, when they're in between projects, that probably is not exploitation. The exploitation is where they're given false promises that there is job, and then they're benched and not paid. So that is where you see all kinds of exploitation. Sometimes underpayment.
Mhm.
Sometimes what we also see is employers will come back and say, "Hey, the contract that we have with the client, the hourly wage is very low. So what we're going to do is we're going to pay you less than what the LCA is required by us to pay." So if somebody is getting underpaid, that is also illegal. So any underpayment is a major issue. So if there is a company that is underpaying somebody on H1B, that is illegal. And also the fees charged for H1B filing. For the H1B, the companies cannot charge any fees. So if the company is charging any fees, that is illegal. Again, that is financial exploitation. So again, that could cause a problem. So when there is fraud, deception, exploitation, or force, coercion, so when these kind of things happen, sometimes you intersect with the loss of human trafficking. So that's why the employers also have to be very careful and know the rules, ensure that there is no kind of fraud, no kind of exploitation, no kind of coercion. And if not, there are legal implications, legal implications for immigration fraud, legal implications for labor violations. If DOL, Department of Labor, if they find out that labor laws are getting violated, they can go back to the company, they can make them back pay the wages, they can penalize the companies. So uh, so these are the kind of things that the companies have to be very cautious. And not all companies that do IT consulting, IT services are bad. There are a lot of companies that follow the rules by the book. It is those few companies
Mhm.
that do it. And now what happens is when they see the few companies that do it, people think that the industry is bad. So overall, for everybody that is involved in this industry, the employers and the employees, they have to ensure that they know the rules, and they question. You question your employer because if you see that your employer is not following the rules, question him. I mean, as an employee, just question him because you have enough legal protections if the employer is not following the rules. And same thing with the employer. Employer has enough legal remedies if the employee is not doing what they're legally supposed to do. So it goes both ways. The employers have to do what they're supposed to do. The employees have to do what they're supposed to do. Because we hear cases where some people, they do not come to work. They stay home. They don't take the phone calls. And then they threaten the
Mhm.
employees that they have to pay. So it goes both ways. Employers have a duty to follow the rules. Employees have a duty to follow the rules and the
Right.
regulations. And doing so, I think it'll keep the industry in a good spot because H1B is a very good program. It actually helps the US economy. It is not something that is helping India or any other country. H1B program is a program meant to help United States, and it is a program that is really helping United States because they're able to get highly talented individuals to work in specialty occupation fields. So it's a field, it's a program that is really helping United States, and I think it is everybody's responsibility that people know the rules and ensure the sanity of this program.
So true, so true. Thank you so much. Very well put, Chand. And it's true, friends. I hope that makes it very clear. And talking about DOL, I think we have a question from the audience here by Good Vibes Only on YouTube. Is there a way to sue the DOL for delays in perm processing? And what would be the chances for such a lawsuit?
So I think so the perm, it used to take 4 months, 4 to 5 months, about 2 3 years back, and now what you're seeing is we're seeing almost 13 to 14 months recently. It's almost we're seeing last June cases get certified right now in July, so almost 13 months, and the timelines have really gone bad in the last 1 year or so. And what has happened is this is what has happened last year. So last year in the month of June 2023, so DOL completely redid the way they're doing their perm applications. So previously we used to use a website called PLC. PLC was a website where we used to do the perm applications. And starting from June of last year, because the process got changed, they started using a website called Flag. So flag.dol.gov is where we have to file the perm applications. And can you sue them? You probably have a cause of action, but again, the thing is whether you'll win. There is nothing. I mean, again, the whole merit of the lawsuit is based on the fact whether that 1 year, which they're currently taking, is too long or not. What do the regulations say? So you can sue, but I don't know if you will win on the merits of the case, whether it's such a lengthy delay. And the reason I say that is because I've seen some cases where in USCIS, people file for green cards, people file for citizenship, and people have filed lawsuits. It's a mandamus action. They file for lawsuits, and sometimes they come back and say 24 months is what it is currently taking. And for example, for a 485, for example, I've seen a lawsuit where the government responded and said they're taking 24 months. That is the normal timeline that is published on the USCIS website, and this lawsuit was too early. So similarly, Dual has a timeline for your perm processing. So if they're processing the perms in a certain timeline, but they are taking your case too long, then I think you have chances of success. But in general, if everybody's case is getting processed at the same time in that similar duration, I don't know whether you will prevail on that lawsuit or not, because DOL is not an automatic machine. They are people, they are a government organization, they have to follow the rules. They can't just approve something in a hurry. And they also have a budget. The budget is critical. They don't have unlimited budget. So there are things that have to follow the rules. They have to go through their process. And if you see USCIS, if you do any I-140 filing, H-1B filing, you actually pay the government fee. When you do the perm processing, you don't really pay anything to the government. Perm processing does not have any government fee. And the reason I say that is because USCIS is funded by your fees. DOL in general, it's not funded by application fees. So, so they have their own limitations. So I don't know if the lawsuit would prevail or not. But again, you can definitely explore the mandamus option. But I don't know whether you can force DOL, because the reason is they'll come back and say that that is the time that they require, and that is the time that they're generally taking for everybody. Say they're taking 1 year for everybody and they take 2 years for you, then you would have a better chance at success. But if not, I think the chances of success are low.
Right. Thank you so much, Chand, for taking that up for Good Vibes only. And thank you, Good Vibes. I hope Chand has made it very clear to you. And friends out there, I would say if you have any questions or you want to contact Attorney Chand Parvathaneni directly, you probably want to have a one-on-one, why not contact him? His contact details are on the screen. You can call him on the number 817-523-8247. Please note it down. And you can even email him law@spblawfirm.com, and also visit his website spblawfirm.com to get to know more about Chand Parvathaneni and also the law firm. Thank you so much, friends, and we are definitely going to discuss further on this topic. What are the hidden aspects of life for Indians in America? So far so good. I hope that you are excited and you have more questions from your end as well. So we'll be right back on Immigration and Jobs Talk Show with me, Napasa Pradhan and Chand Parvathaneni.
Consultant seeking a new opportunity? We offer job placement services for US citizens, green cards, EADs, and visa holders. We also sponsor various work visas like H-1B, E3, TN, and green cards. 20 plus years of experience in the industry. Exceptional employee benefits, highly rated by our employees. global presence with 200 plus recruiters and direct clients. Connect with us. Call us in the number 408 335 6444 or mail us at nipa@higherITpeople.com or visit our website www.higherITpeople.com.
Hello and welcome back, everyone, to Immigration and Jobs Talk Show. This is Nipasa Pradhan, and today we have Attorney Chand Parvathaneni, and we're discussing what are the hidden aspects of life for Indians in America. And we have been talking about human trafficking, for labor purposes, and also about the middlemen commissions, and also about body shopping so far. And we also took up a question from the audience, so I'm sure that most of you are very excited, and I can already see. Oh, thank you so much for your response. Good Vibes Only is saying, thank you so much, Good Vibes, for your question as well. So I'm pretty sure that it answers. Thank you. All right, Chand, I think we should move on and take up a few more questions. I have this next question from my end, and this is about also body shopping agencies in India, and human trafficking. So let's go to the next question. What are some common challenges faced? Well, in the context of human trafficking, investigations, what challenges do prosecutors face when interviewing each individual involved separately, and what role might assistance with resumes play in these cases?
Sure. So for generally for any criminal investigations, prosecutors, basically who are the government side employees, typically the lawyers, so they do face several challenges normally because they have to interview these individuals, they have to gather the information about the nature of this issue, and they have to build a strong case because if the evidence is weak, the case will be thrown out. So what that means is the prosecutors, they want to do their job thoroughly. So they interview all the witnesses, all the individuals who are involved, sometimes the victims, and they try to build up the case. And so what they do is some of the challenges. So what happens is sometimes when they start interviewing all these individuals separately, sometimes there are inconsistent testimonies, and that is what they kind of look for because they want to make sure if they're going after somebody, they want to make sure they have a strong case. And when they interview all these witnesses and victims, if there are variations in stories, it's a big challenge for the prosecutors. If because they want to make sure there is a consistent issue that has happened, and it is really a genuine and a legitimate issue. So variation in stories between different witnesses or different victims' stories means there is a problem. Maybe somebody is lying or something is happening. So that's a big challenge. And sometimes they also understand that there could be fear and intimidation. Maybe the victims are afraid to speak out because the people are from foreign country. So maybe they're getting some kind of force, or they're being intimidated abroad. We don't know. So these are all the kind of things that prosecutors understand. It's a challenge, and they use it as a part of their investigation. And also the legal and language barriers. They understand that in these kind of trafficking situations, and it's not only because trafficking typically is with a lot of other areas too. And a lot of times when there is trafficking, it is probably foreigners who are non-native English speakers. So there are definitely some communication barriers. And what communication barriers mean is probably the person who is being interviewed says something, and it is being interpreted in a different manner by the prosecution side. So sometimes it's language differences, and the victims not being able to fully understand their rights sometimes causes a lot of issues. And these are some of the challenges that prosecutors face. But normally what happens is the case takes some time. So once the charges are filed, there's a whole big process that happens. The prosecution side shares evidences, and the defense side starts arguing back. They do discovery. The prosecution does discovery. So in general, prosecution does see a lot of challenges, and but again, that is their job. And if they uncover that like a crime has been committed, they go hard against the defendants.
Right. Right. Thank you so much, Chand. And I mean, recently we also had the Princeton case, and what constitutes forced labor under U.S. law? By the way, if you could just explain that to us firstly.
Yeah, sure. In the Princeton case, what happened is, so in US we follow a federal system. So there are two things that happen. So there is this federal government, that is the federal government. In India, it's the central government, and then we have the state
Mhm.
government. So state government is basically the local state. In this case, the state of Texas. So what has happened so far is, so clearly, I think what I mean when you talk about USC, United States Code, it's a federal crime. So at this point of time, we are not seeing any federal charges filed. So the federal government has not filed any charges. It is the local police, the Princeton police. So they have filed charges. So what that means is the charges are filed as per the Texas code. So Texas has its own code, criminal code. So the charges have been filed again as per the Texas code. So, so Texas code defines trafficking, crimes of trafficking. So so according to Texas, uh, so what has happened in Texas case is they have been charged with a second degree felony. So in Texas, the highest criminal offense is a capital felony. So a capital felony means they could get death sentence. So a death sentence is possible. So that is the highest crime that could happen in Texas. And the next one is a first degree felony. So a first degree felony under Texas law, not US law, but Texas law, is a 20 to 100 years punishment if they get convicted. If they get actually, they prove that that has happened. And in this case, what the Princeton police have done is they have filed charges under the second degree felony. So second degree felony means the sentencing would be between 2 to 20 years. So they have only filed the charges. It does not mean that the Princeton police have won their case. It does not mean that the Princeton police have proved their case. It only means that there is a probable cause, and they filed the charges, and the case is ongoing. Now the court will decide if really a wrong has been committed or not. So if the court finds the defendants guilty of second degree felony, as per Texas rules, they can get 2 to 20 years. If the case does not if the case is not proven, and the court could come back, the judge could come back and say the charges are dismissed. So anything could happen at this point of time, which is why it is people should not make a judgment in a hurry. There is a lengthy legal process in US is all about due process. Nobody is guilty of a crime unless they're convicted. So right now there are charges filed, and people are looking at the evidence. There is defense, there is prosecution, the case is ongoing, and the court will make a decision at the end. And these are all state charges. So right now we're not looking at federal charges, not United States charges. These are state charges. So it's in the local side, the state side, and we have to wait and see what will happen. It does not mean that the United States government could come back and file federal charges in the future. It could happen. We don't know. But at this point of time, the local state filed charges under the Texas code, Texas criminal code. So that is what has currently happened so far. So the
Right.
federal
And some
agencies have
people
not
are
yet filed any charges.
okay, okay. And like, some people are also saying that it is just a part of a political campaign to garner attention. You think it is really? And what do you have to say about it?
I mean, again, I think in US everybody should believe in due process. It's a part of our legal system here, and what that means
Hmm.
is you should not say anybody is guilty unless they're really convicted. So people should not make judgment and say somebody is guilty either this side or that side, because the, 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 the process is currently happening. The due process. Everybody has
Okay.
their rights. So I think definitely, I think some people are portraying them as guilty. We don't know, which is why we have courts, which is why we have all this system, and the system is actually kind of working, and we will see what is happening because nobody has seen the evidence yet. I mean, the common people, the public has not seen the evidence yet. The case uh, has gone to a trial yet, and there is a whole bunch of legal things that need to happen in the next couple of months. So we will see what will happen in the future, because what could happen is. People get convicted, sometimes the charges get dropped, sometimes the charges are decreased, so various things could happen. So definitely I think everybody should believe in due process, and what that means is these people are not convicted yet. They're only charged with a crime, and now the prosecution has to prove beyond a reasonable doubt. So it's just saying that they could have done the crime is not enough. They have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt. There is a lot of burden of proof in criminal law, and which is what is happening right now.
Right. Thank you so much, Chand, for taking that up. And I mean, about today's topic, if you could just tell us what are some common challenges faced by Indian immigrants in the US, and how can they be effectively addressed if they face challenges?
Sure. I think the biggest challenge that Indians, non-immigrant Indians, face in US is the visa situation. Because people are dependent on an employer. For example, when it comes to H-1B, when it comes to OPT, they're dependent on an employer. The whole dependency on an employer, I think, is what sometimes is causing a problem. The problem is because people are dependent on an H-1B employer. If the H-1B employer terminates their job, their status is jeopardized. If the OPT student employees are terminated, they're not getting paid, their status is jeopardized. I think this whole visa dependency, I think, is what is causing uh, people to start exploiting uh, their weakness. So I think the biggest problem is the visa dependency, and the second biggest problem is the green card backlog. If somebody is from Nepal, Bangladesh, Pakistan, or United Kingdom, or any other country other than India or China, they don't really have a huge, significant green card backlog. When it comes to India, unfortunately, there is a significant backlog. And what that means is people are stuck in this visa limbo for years and years and years. Right now, 2012 dates are current. So somebody whose green card perm application was filed in 2012, they're getting the green card now. But if the green card application was filed in 2012, it does not mean they came to US in 2012. They probably came to US a long time back. Their perm was filed in
Yes.
2012. And what that means is you are staying at the mercy of employers for long time. So this being at the mercy of the system, the visa system, I think is causing a lot of issues for Indian nationals. But unfortunately, rules are rules. Everybody has to follow the rules. But again, that is where I think this visa fraud, exploitation, these things are kind of opening up.
Very well put, and it's so true. I'm sure that folks out there, especially Indians out there who are living in America, who have been living for years and years, know what this truly is. And if you want to share your stories or experiences, please feel free to drop them in the comments. We would love to share them here with us as well. All right, we have our questions from the audience. I think we should take them up because we don't have much time left. So, Chant, this is from SS in YouTube asking, is there a way to track PWD? I mean, how to check if the employer has even submitted or started the process of PWD or not? Thanks in advance.
Sure. So the prevailing wage determination, it's a filing done with Department of Labor, and when you file that the prevailing wage, you will have a form. You will have a form with a receipt number. So you can ask your employer to share the copy of the prevailing wage, and at the bottom of the prevailing wage, you will have the prevailing wage tracking number. It starts with a P. You will so once you get that copy, you'll know it is filed with USCIS. It's a Department of Labor form. So once you file it, the employer should be able to download it, and you should be able to see it, and then you should be able to track that online. So definitely, if the employer has filed a prevailing wage, there is no harm in asking them to share a copy with you, and because if they share a copy with you, that's your guaranteed proof that it was filed. Because the filing copy will say if it was filed or not, it will have that number and so on.
Great. Thank you so much. Well, SS, I hope that is clear for you. Thank you, Chand, for taking that up. All right, we have a follow up from Good Vibes Only asking a question about I 140. If an I 140 approval is withdrawn by employer within 180 days of approval, can such an approval be still used for H 1B extension beyond 6 years?
Sure. And again, so this there was a rule about I-140 being valid after 180 days, and the reason that rule came out was because the government was reacting to people getting exploited. So because people were getting stuck with the I-140 employer for a very long time, so the government they understood that people could get exploited. So it was their response. So what happened in 2017 was they came and said, if you have an I-140 approval from an employer and more than 180 days have passed after the approval date, only 6 months. After that point of time, that I-140 cannot be withdrawn. What that means is, even if the employer goes and submits a withdrawal request, that I-140 is yours, the employees to keep. So you can use that I-140 and you can port your employment. You can change your employer to another employer. You can freely transfer, and you can use it for your 6-year extensions. You can use it for your H4 EAD filings, and you're good. So that was one of the good rules that came out. And what that helped is people were free to move from one employer to another employer because they don't have to worry even if the I-140 was withdrawn. So previously, before that, what used to happen is if your I-140 got withdrawn, you pretty much were stuck. You could not do the extensions after your 6 years H1. So now, with the current rules, even if it is withdrawn by your employer after 6 months, you are good. You don't have to depend on the employer. That prior approval copy can be used to obtain your extensions after your 6 years is up.
Okay. Thank you so much. Good vibes, Oni, also for your question. I hope that was pretty much clear. Thank you, Chand. And if you have any further questions, you should definitely contact Chand directly. And now I have another question for you, Chand. Then, if you can tell us what are some common legal issues or criminal offenses that Indian immigrants might unintentionally encounter in the United States?
So when we say unintentionally, we're talking about people like not knowing, not intentionally. The biggest thing that I see is overstaying the visa. And the reason I say it's a very common thing that we have been lately seeing is because people have to understand that anytime they come into the country, they have to look at their I-94. So the next day they have to go onto the CBP website, download your I-94. The I-94 will
Okay.
tell you the date you're supposed to stay in the country until. And sometimes what happens is the I-94 date might be inaccurate, or sometimes the CBP officers, they will give you the I-94 only till the end date of your passport, sometimes. So accidentally, I see a lot of people not realizing that, and they overstay their visa. When I say overstay their I-94 time. So any non-immigrant, they should be looking at their I-94. You should know what your end date on your I-94 is. That is the most common thing that I see, which is very unintentional. Nobody wants to overstay the visa. At least majority don't want to overstay the visa, but they just don't realize when their end date in the United States is. So sometimes B1, B2, people just assume they get 6 months on I-94. Sometimes, most of the time, yes, you do, but sometimes you can get a reduced I-94. So don't assume that you get the duration that you think you should get. Always download your I-94. Look at the I-94. Don't ever overstay your I-94 end date. So overstaying visa accidentally also is a violation. So be very careful about that. And the other sometimes unintentional thing that we see is unauthorized employment. So when somebody is on F1 visa or you are on a tourist visa, there are very strict rules about employment. When you are on F1 visa, you cannot work outside the campus when you are a student. After your graduation, you can work under the terms of OPT. What that means is you cannot work for anybody. You have to work in a field that is relevant to your field of study. So there are rules about F1 employment. You have to be cautious about those rules. Tourist visa, you cannot babysit people. You cannot do a few things. You cannot work in a hotel. So sometimes people, intentionally or unintentionally, they engage in unauthorized employment. So that's another important thing that people have to be cautious. Another thing is traffic violations. Don't drive without a license. So driving without a license has severe penalties. Even accidentally, do not drive. Sometimes people make that mistake. Be cautious. And driving under the influence. Drinking and driving is very strictly enforced, as you all know. Be very cautious. Do not drink and drive. If you get caught while driving under the influence, you will be arrested right then. They will take you. They will stop you. They will take you to the jail. I've had to deal with a number of issues where uh, it was a very unfortunate situation. Somebody goes to a party on a Friday evening. They drink. They think they're not going to get caught because it's a one-time thing, and unfortunately, they get caught. And DUI, you get arrested. When you get arrested, you get fingerprinted. Your mugshot is out there. People can see your mugshot. And tomorrow, when you go for visa stamping, you have a problem. So be very, very cautious. Even if you drink very little, do not drive. Okay, DUI has very severe consequences for your immigration. So be very careful. And then the other common things are not paying your taxes. And another thing we should talk about is domestic violence, because I've been seeing a lot of domestic violence cases. Unfortunately, there are some cultural differences in various families, and hitting your girlfriend or wife is not accepted. I had two cases last week where, unfortunately, somebody hit their spouse in one case, their girlfriend in one case. It was out in the public. Later on, the girlfriend said she's okay, she does not have a problem, but somebody else saw it. They complained to the authorities. The person got arrested. So domestic violence of any kind, it's a very something that people have to be very, very cautious. It's a criminal offense. Do not engage in any kind of a violence, even if it's your wife, even if it's your child. Uh, Rules are rules. Be very, very cautious in following these rules, and then pay your taxes on time. So, and again, luckily, most of the immigrants do follow the rules. It's not something we see on a wide scale, but again, I think the goal should be 100% should follow all the rules. So that way, as a community, uh, people will start respecting the community as is, because Indians already, there is statistics to show that Indians are very highly qualified in US, and Indians in US have one of the highest incomes in the United States. And the reason is because people are disciplined. People are disciplined in general. But again, those few people that who commit crimes could spoil it for other people. So as a whole, as a society, as a community, I think it's a good idea to learn the laws and uh, follow the rules very, very strictly.
Thank you so much, Chand. I mean, for highlighting some of these common legal issues or criminal offenses that Indian immigrants or anybody as such who live in the United States could encounter. And very well put. I think the best thing is to stay by the rules and stick by the laws, and only then you can always be safe. All right. Thank you, Chan, for, clearing that out for us. And talking about cultural differences and domestic violence, I think, yes, you're very right. We should always stay away from any sort of violence. And if you can, let's take up this next one. Question from the audience. This is from Hannah on YouTube, um, asking, how do hidden barriers such as cultural capital, networking disparities, and systematic biases impact my economic mobility as an Indian in America? And what strategies do I employ to navigate these challenges?
I think in the United States, because if somebody from India is coming to United States, especially on a student visa or a H-1B visa, we know they're already highly qualified. And I think when you talk about networking disparities, networking is, the way I see it is, networking is a very, very important factor in career growth in the United States. It's all about networking in the United States. And the more the people that you know, the more people are able to refer you to somebody, your chances in career grow up. So uh, I think when you talk about cultural capital, networking disparities, uh, in India, I think what happens is people look at your the marks, look at how much high score you have in your degree, and
Yes.
that kind of impacts your jobs. In US, it's not only about what kind of an education qualification you have; it's also about networking. So I think, so cultural capital. I think what people should also do is, there are definitely hidden barriers. A lot of Indians initially, when they come into the country, they don't know a lot of friends out here. So what that means is they tend to stick with each other. And I think
Mhm.
when somebody is in Rome, they should act like a Roman. They should know the local laws. They should know the local customs. They should try to assimilate with the culture, the local culture. So definitely it's a barrier because people are coming from abroad to US. So I think what people should do is they should try to make friends. They should try to assimilate into the local culture. Uh, they should network as much as possible, not just with own society, but with everybody. People are friendly.
Mhm.
People are helping, which is why a lot of Indians are able to come to US, because US is definitely a welcoming country. I mean, people are welcomed. If you work hard, people are encouraged. But people should mix with everybody. People should network. You make more friends and you network more. It doesn't happen overnight. It's a slow process.
Mhm.
But again, you should think along those lines of making friends, about assimilating in this society, and try to move around with various people. US encourages diversity, and diversity has a lot of advantages, which means people should go out of their comfort cocoon, and then just they should explore. They should explore, and diversity is a very, very important, very valuable thing that people are lucky to find in US. In US, you have diversity. You have variety of options for
Mhm.
diversity, to make friends, to explore, and to network. And I think definitely it'll impact the economic uh, issues in the longer run, because good networking, having diversity in your friend circle, will help you get a better job. And I think economically, I think it'll help um, in a longer run.
For sure, for sure. And it's always good, I think, to get to know people belonging to various cultures, diverse cultures from across the globe. And I think America is known for that, for sure. All right, let's move on to this next question. This is from Vishnu Vardhan, also on YouTube, asking, Hello, Chand. I want to attend the H1 visa counselor processing. What are the documents I need to carry for the interview?
Sure. So when you go for your counselor interview, there are two things that are happening right now. One, you if you're eligible, you'll get Dropbox if you had a US visa in the past, and if you're not eligible for a Dropbox, you go for a in-person interview. If you go for a Dropbox, you don't really need a whole lot of documents. You just need the documents from your employer that talk about the project, or a client letter that talk about the assignment. Take your approval copy, and take a recent employment verification letter, and go for Dropbox if it's a Dropbox. And if you're going for the actual in-person interview, try to get the entire H-1B file from your employer. Um, Take the whole packet with you. And not only that, the big thing is take your project documents. Okay, documents that talk about your project, whether it's in-house. If it's a client, take your client letter if it's available. Take your employment verification letter, and definitely take your approval copy. So approval copy, it doesn't have to be original. If it is original, that's fine. But if not, you can even take a copy. But definitely take a latest verification letter from your employer stating that the job as defined in the H1B, it's still available. That verification letter from the employer is very important. And all employers have to give you a copy of the LCA. So definitely make sure you have the copy of the LCA. And try to also get all the supporting documents that were filed for your H1B, so you know what is going on. And the project documents are important, because at the interview the officer wants to know what your assignment is, what you're going to do once you're in US. So try to get your project documents. And typically the employers that file the H1B, they typically release the entire H1B package, so you can take it along with you while you go for your interview.
Thank you so much for taking that up for Vishnu Vardhan, and all the best, Vishnu Vardhan, for your interview. I hope you crack it. Chand, I was just going to ask if you have some more time to spend with us. We could take up a couple
Sure.
more questions from the audience. All right. All
Sure,
right.
sure.
Let's take this next one. This is from Jhalak, also on YouTube. As an Indian living in America past few months, I'm aware of the obvious cultural and legal differences. However, I'm curious to know about the hidden aspects of life in America that may impact my daily life, career, and relationships. Can you advise me on the following? Number one is unspoken cultural norms that I should be aware of. Uh, there are more, so let's go one by one, Chand, if that's fine. So,
Sure, sure.
unspoken cultural norms that I should be aware of, if anything.
Sure. Like unspoken cultural norms. So I think in US, I think the big thing is everybody values privacy, because everybody has their own private life and a public life. So privacy is highly valued. And not only that, I think people want people to assimilate into the society. So what that means in terms of cultural norms is, if somebody is in out in the public, people should try to talk in English. At least that's what I encourage. People should try to talk in a language that everybody understands. Or somebody sitting in Uber and two friends are going. I think, I mean, again, it's a free country. And as long as you're not doing anything illegal, you're free to do whatever is legally allowed. But again, in terms of it's unspoken, and what that means is, uh, I mean, when you're out in the public, try to speak in English, okay? Because you don't want people to think that you're trying not to assimilate with the public. So I encourage people to speak in public as much as possible. Um when there are like other people out in front of you who don't understand your language. So
Right.
that's, I think, one thing that I normally see. And also respecting the time, because US, I think even in India nowadays, I think people are, because India has become very very fast moving economy. People are very
Right.
very well educated in India, so I think the timelines, time, respecting people's time. So I think that's very important. So if somebody gives you an appointment, making sure you meet your times, appointment time, I think uh, most of the people follow it because people are highly educated. But again, something that should be done. Um
Sure.
I mean, again, in terms of cultural norm, I think it's like just trying to mix with everybody,
Yeah.
and uh, trying to make sure that you're a part of the culture and you respect the values, the value. Because India and US both cherish the idea of democracy. We're not communist countries; we are democratic countries. So, the idea of
Yes.
democracy, idea of freedom, I think you cherish, you respect other people's freedom. And the good thing is, India and US, they have the same concepts of democracy and freedoms. And what that means is, at least from that perspective, it's a lot easier because
Hmm.
these are what has made US the number one country in the entire world. And this is what is kind of helping India progress the concepts of democracy. And I think we should respect and respect for the laws. I think that's a very, very important thing.
For sure, for sure. And I think you've put it very well. It's speaking in a language which everybody understands. I think that way it avoids many different kinds of misconceptions or unnecessary things that people might think. So, yes, always good. And let's move on to the next question that Jhalak has, because there are two more questions Jhalak has. The number two is the legal nuances that may affect my rights and responsibilities as an Indian in America. And number three is
So, in terms of
potential
legal,
biases or stereotypes that I should be prepared for. If you can answer both at the same time.
sure, sure. So I think US as a whole, US as a country is a very welcoming country as a whole. That being said, yes, some people are always going to be racist. Not a whole lot, but you have all you'll always have that minority, very few people. Sometimes that will kind of make everybody look bad. So obviously, yes, there are you might encounter somebody who looks like a racist, who is kind of biased, and if you find those people, just try to avoid them and just walk away, because there is no point in engaging and fighting with those kind of people. And in terms of US, the biggest thing, the legal nuances that I want everybody to understand is, if somebody irritates you, if somebody kind of makes bad comments against you, don't ever get physical. Okay, so just walk away. Try to document as much as possible, because as long as you're not reacting, you're not physically assaulting somebody, tomorrow you'll have legal recourse. You will go. There are very very strict laws about racial crimes, racist people. So the civil rights, they're well protected in US. So there are rights. The thing is, do not do anything in anger, and don't try to assault somebody. Just know your rights and document. If there is any issue where you feel that somebody is violating your rights, document it, and then go to the authorities at the right time. Okay, so yes, you're going to see some people who are biased, some people who act racist, who try to pick up a fight with you. Just learn to walk away. Okay, because
Mhm.
obviously, I mean, sometimes there are guns, and most of the people who have guns follow the rules again, but some people might not follow the rules. So don't ever escalate a conversation, don't ever escalate an argument. Just walk away and document it, because you don't want to get shot by somebody who's a racist. Okay, so uh,
Yes.
don't engage in any kind of fights, and definitely do not lay your hand on anybody. The minute you physically assault somebody, you're going to have a problem. The only time you really have to worry, I mean, react physically, is if you really feel your life is in a threat. If you really find that you might die, then probably it's a different issue. But if not, if you think it's a small argument, do not escalate it. Just walk away, and then that is the safest way to safeguard your rights in US.
Thank you so much, Chand and Chalak. Thank you for your question. Very interesting. And absolutely stay away from violence. And I think it's always important to respect each and everyone around you, and be ethical, and don't hurt anyone, whether it's emotionally or sentimentally, and physically for sure. Never hurt anyone. Well, yes, let's move on to the last question for today then, from the audience. And this is from Alex. Well, what unique challenges do Indian families face in maintaining traditional values while living in the United States? Chand, maybe you could also explain this firsthand since you two are there.
Sure, sure. I think the challenges that people face is because again, US it's a free country, and people have a right to practice their own religion. People have a right to practice their culture. There's nothing wrong. And I think the challenge that I see is US. It's a big country, and if somebody is in a city like Dallas, a city like New York, New Jersey, or Bay Area, what happens is you find uh, a lot of other people following the same culture, like a lot of Indians. And what that means is sometimes when you want to maintain your traditional values, for example, there is a festival, for example, there is Diwali, or there is another religious occasion, you have more options where you can kind of maintain or practice your traditions. For example, in Dallas, where I live, there are a lot of Indian restaurants, there are a lot of Indian temples, there are a lot of Indian movie theaters, and so on. So I think the
Mhm.
challenges that I see people face is because people are working all over the country. Some places they're restricted because they don't have a lot of Indian grocery stores. Because sometimes you might want to eat Indian food, you might want to uh, do a lot of things that are Indian, like food, like maybe
Yes.
your outfits for some occasions and so on. So, uh, so that's a challenge that I see. Sometimes the availability. Some cities have
Mhm.
a lot of these options available where it's easy to maintain your traditional values, like occasional get-togethers and so on. And some cities do not have that. And not only that,
Yes.
I think sometimes what happens is some people are living in neighborhoods where these kind of things are easily accessible and sometimes not. And sometimes the fear that would you be seen as an outcast if you practice your own traditions. No, US is again very welcoming. Practicing your own traditions,
Mhm.
practicing your own maintaining your culture, it's not a problem. Just respect everybody's culture, respect everybody's religion. You are free to practice your religion, your culture. At the same time, respect other people's culture, other people's values, and that is what I think everybody should do. And doing so, you are kind of taking the values of diversity out there, because people want to look at the
Absolutely.
diverse society. So they want to learn from others cultures. So practice your culture, at the same time respect others culture, and follow the rules.
Absolutely. Very well put. Thank you so much, Chand, and Alex as well for your question. I mean, all you folks as well. Thank you for all your questions. You made this session an even more interesting one with all your questions, because that way we got to touch on these topics such as tradition, culture. Thank you so much. And Chand, I'm sure there was so much more to talk about under this topic, but maybe we can keep them for some other time. Unfortunately, we have to wrap up our show for now. But thank you so much, Chand. I hope you had a good time. And maybe you could just end this with an end note. What are the hidden aspects of life for Indians in America? Maybe just keynotes to keep in mind and tips.
Sure. I think the biggest suggestion I would give is compliance. Compliance is very important. Know the rules, follow the rules. Because if you don't follow the rule because you don't know the rule, the law will not give you any slack. The law says that you have to know the rules. And everybody that I deal
Yes.
with, Indians who are coming in as non-immigrants, because majority come in as F1 students or as H1.
Mhm.
And all these guys are very, very highly talented because they have a bachelor's degree in a very, very highly specialized field. So when people are highly
Yes.
qualified, most of the people they tend to follow the rules, which is why most of the people are following the rules. And if you look at what people are doing in US, majority of the Indians are doing very good. Majority are making good money, and
Yes.
they are contributing to the economy. So I think. Do not get disheartened if the economy is weak, because right now if say the market is bad, do not get disheartened. You have high degrees, you have high qualifications, so things might be bad for a few months, but they will turn back. So do not the main thing is compliance, and what that means is do not fall for fake resumes, fake green cards, and try to
Mhm.
get projects by using these fake means. So stay away from any kind of misrepresentation and follow the rules. It might take you some
Sure.
time, but long term you will have a career, because the bottom line is you people, I mean, most of the people are highly qualified. You have that education, and that education is your background, so not misrepresentation. So even if you don't misrepresent, that education background that you have will get you the jobs and will get you good career. So compliance with the rules, and don't get into any trouble with the law. I think that is all I think I have to say. And wish everybody that's listening today all the best in your careers.
Thank you so much, Chand. Thank you so much. Really very insightful, and everything we spoke about today was pretty much helpful. Thank you so much. I'm sure all you folks out there, you found all the information in this webinar very helpful. So in case you want to contact Attorney Chand Parvathaneni directly, you can always contact him in this number of his. His number is 817-523-8247. Please note it down. And also his email address is displayed on the screen, law@spblawfirm.com. And definitely go visit his website, spblawfirm.com, to get to know more about Attorney Chand Parvathaneni. And thank you so much, Chand, once again for joining us in the show. I hope that we can catch up again in the coming week to talk further, maybe on the same topic or another fresh topic for sure.
Thank you, Nipasa.
Thank you. Have a great day ahead. Well, friends, thank you so much once again for joining us on this show. And today we spoke about what are the hidden aspects of life for Indians in America. And I hope that you could resonate. I'm sure many of you folks who joined us were Indians, as per your names for sure. But if you have anything else you want to share, maybe your life out there in America as well, you want to share with us a few experiences you've had in your past years or months of staying there, why not drop them in the comments? We are streaming live on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter. But also, if you're watching this after the stream has ended, feel free to comment, because we still have our experts who would love to respond to you. So thank you so much once again. And also, friends, if you are looking for project placement, we provide job placement services for IT professionals in the USA, services for non-immigrants. We sponsor H-1B, H-1B1, E3, OPT, and TN visas, and have expertise in employment-based immigration. So we support emergency H-1B visa transfers as well, 60-day grace periods, concurrent H-1B visa sponsorship, green card sponsorship. Feel free, friends, and contact me also. You can call me on this number or even WhatsApp me on 408-335-6444. That's my number. You can note down my email address in case you're comfortable to mail me. My email address is nipa@highrightypeople.com. And to get to know more about us, visit our website, www.highrightypeople.com. And also, good news for all you Telugu speakers out there. Look out for Immigration and Jobs Talk Show, a Telugu handle, which will be launched very, very soon. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel, because we keep having very interesting discussions like these. And also, we have latest updates on immigration and jobs. Thank you for joining us today. This is Nipasa Pradhan signing off for now from Immigration and Jobs Talk Show. Have a great day ahead.
Consultant seeking a new opportunity? We offer job placement services for US citizens, green cards, EADs, and visa holders. We also sponsor various work visas like H-1B, E3, TN, and green cards. 20 plus years of experience in the industry, exceptional employee benefits, highly rated by our employees, global presence with 200 plus recruiters and direct clients. Connect with us. Call us in the number 408-335-6444 or mail us at nipa@highrightypeople.com.